André Mendonça is the rapporteur and the person responsible for this investigation. Justice of the Federal Supreme Court, as we know, and he is only a minister of the Supreme Federal Court because Alexandre de Moraes put him there. I think he's being very passive. No, guys. Soon they'll destroy the evidence. Then there's no way to catch the crooks and the criminals. So some measure has to be taken regarding Flávio. Why not? Electronic ankle monitor, confiscation of the passport. Otherwise, they'll destroy the evidence soon. Especially because part of the crime, from everything we can tell, may have been and was committed outside of Brazil. There in the United States. And why do I say that? Because the money went there. The money that Daniel Forcaro transferred. That was meant for the movie. It didn't go to Entre Entretenimentos, which is the company responsible. It went to a fund, to an account, which has Carlisto as the person responsible there in the United States, in Texas, who is Eduardo Bolsonaro's lawyer. And the news now from Brasilia's backrooms is that this money has already come out of this fund. And it went to a tax haven in the United States to try to shield it so it won't be seized and blocked. Then you come and tell me that Flávio went to the United States to try to meet with Donald Trump, with a meeting scheduled with Donald Trump, even though he doesn't have anything scheduled. They went there to coordinate their stories, to destroy evidence, and try somehow to hide the money. More than it's already hidden. And André Mendonça watching all of this. If we already know all of this, my dear, do you know what that means? That there's much more, that there's a lot more already discovered and held by the federal police. And so far, nothing. Will they allow the evidence to be destroyed? So later they can try to do something and say there's no evidence. So like this situation is really serious. And I'm not going to lie to you. I say the same thing regarding the federal police operations in Rio de Janeiro involving Claudio Castro, where André Mendonça is the justice in charge. Claudio Castro should already be behind bars. And the police? In the report where the police requested these searches and seizures today, there have already been 2 federal police operations just this month regarding Claudio Castro's mafia, since Claudio Castro is a political ally of Flávio Bolsonaro. The police made it very clear that Claudio Castro had deep connections with Forcaro. Before, we knew that he had injected almost R$1 billion into Daniel Forcaro's mafia, and now we already know that it's almost R$3 billion. And it's all the same criminal scheme, guys, which has operations here, and because there was so much money, they found a way to send part of it abroad using Bolsonaro's movie as a laundromat to launder money and pay bribes. I'll repeat, some action has to be taken regarding Flávio Bolsonaro. Thank you. And Claudio Castro has to go to jail. Thank you. He's already on borrowed time. Look here. Part of what the federal police said when they requested these searches and seizures that are being carried out today in Rio de Janeiro involving Flávio Bolsonaro's political group in Rio de Janeiro. Look here on Global News. Pay attention.
The investigations that led to the search and seizure at Claudio Castro's address clearly show, according to the federal police and the Office of the Prosecutor General, political alignment between the former governor of Rio, Claudio Castro, and Daniel Forcaro. Investigations found the Rio Previdencia Board changed to enable an investment in Banco Master. There was also a way to ignore technical reports that would have prevented this investment. There was a meeting between Claudio Castro and Daniel Forcaro inside the country, private meetings outside the country as well, and many interests funded by Daniel Forcaro so that Claudio Castro would act in favor of Banco Master. In other words, in favor of private interests, but using public money, money from Rio Previdencia. The federal police clearly mentioned the political alignment of Claudio Castro, and the Office of the Attorney General of the Republic talks about evidence of corruption and also crimes against the financial system.
It's the same mafia. I've told you this before, and I'll say it again. It's the same mafia, which has Claudio Bolsonaro as one of the bosses of the scheme. I explained to you why Claudio Castro is the governor of Rio de Janeiro in the 8:30 live stream. Who brought Claudio Castro into the political world in Rio de Janeiro? They even had his successor lined up there, Rodrigo Bacelar, who is already in jail. It was the Bolsonaro family. He's a trusted man. He's part of Bolsonaro's political group. So let me ask you this. The same concern I have about Flávio Bolsonaro regarding destruction of evidence and coordinating stories, I have the same concern about Claudio Castro. This is the second operation he's faced this month. Don't you think he already knows that the federal police are after him and that whatever he could destroy, he already has? Do you understand? That's why preventive detention exists, guys. Preventive detention, among the reasons why it is applied, is exactly so that the person doesn't interfere with the investigation, doesn't destroy evidence, doesn't intimidate witnesses, and doesn't coordinate stories. That's what preventive detention is for. And I ask you, why isn't Claudio Castro in jail yet? Why hasn't Flávio Bolsonaro at least been ordered to wear an ankle monitor to prevent him from leaving Brazil yet? Because meanwhile, they are destroying evidence. They are trying and doing everything you can imagine in the hallways and behind the scenes, maybe even in the basements, to try to hinder the investigations. And are they going to allow that? That's my question. Oh, come on. Saying that Flávio went there to meet with Donald Trump, give me a break. Did Flávio Bolsonaro go to the United States to destroy evidence? What do you think? To me, he went there to destroy evidence and coordinate stories. To me, he went there to do that. And what about you? With no White House meeting scheduled, Flávio Bolsonaro seeks a photo with Trump to distance himself from the toxic effect of his connection with Bolsonaro. And above all, obviously, he wants to create a smokescreen, right? To see if he can desperately at least get a photo next to Trump, to see if he can take the spotlight off everything that's happening. I've already said it and will say it again. He's very mistaken. If he thinks he's going to sweet talk people, he's not. He can sweet talk the herd, those who are used to being led, manipulated, and then discarded when they're no longer useful. But he won't fool us, no way. He won't fool us, no way. He won't. Or maybe he will. No. The White House releases Trump's schedule without mentioning the meeting with Flávio. The official schedule released by the White House, however, does not include Flávio's name. Among the scheduled and announced commitments are a medical checkup in the morning and 3 internal political meetings in the Oval Office in the afternoon. Flávio is not on the schedule. And this is very serious. Well, meanwhile, I've been telling you all that everything, every single scheme involving Flávio will come to light. Because now, for the first time, a public authority is making a new accusation against Flávio Bolsonaro about a situation I had already mentioned to you here, which is the federal hospitals in Rio de Janeiro. The suspicion is that Flávio committed every kind of crime he possibly could regarding the federal hospitals in Rio de Janeiro. Why? Bolsonaro, while he was president of the republic, made Flávio politically responsible for the hospitals in Rio de Janeiro. And now Lula's Minister of Health, who is a Dr. Padilla, at an event today, he dropped the bomb. And he said that Flavio did everything he could and even what he shouldn't have. In the management of the federal hospitals in Rio de Janeiro during Bolsonaro's government. Let's see what he said here and just wait. You can expect that things are going to get rough. And at the right time, this bomb is going to go off. At the right time, since I've said it already, let's not scare the fish. When you go fishing, what do you have to do? You have to stay quiet. Because too much noise, if there's noise, you'll scare the fish. Then you won't catch the fish. Flavio is the fish. We can't make too much noise now either and pile everything on him because otherwise he'll run away. The idea is that he doesn't run away. The idea is for him to formalize his candidacy for the presidency of the Republic. You Bolsonarists, you are ridiculous. You think that we on the left, that we don't want Flavio because we're afraid of Flavio and blah, 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 blah. No. I've always told you this from the very beginning, way back before anything happened. I said, I want Flavio. Flavio is going to give Lula the victory, maybe even in the first round. Why, Andrea? He's got a lot of dirt on him. He lives in a glass house. He's Bolsonaro's most corrupt son. So if you think we don't want Flavio, you're very mistaken. We want the pure blood, as he himself said, to get beaten by Lula, just like his father did. 01 will get beaten too. But we can't scare the fish too much. We can't make too much noise right now. I'm waiting for the candidacy registration, then you'll see it'll all fall apart and it'll be clear who Flavio Bolsonaro is. Thank you. Do you understand? Wonderful. So let's take it slow. We're going slowly, so we don't scare the fish. Look here, Padilla's speech. Very serious, and there are more schemes which will blow up at the right time. And at the right time, it will come to light, and we'll find out about more criminal schemes from the crook. Not to say anything else, because we don't want to scare anyone for now. From Flavio, the Rachadinha scheme. Thank you.
The true godfather of Rio de Janeiro's federal hospitals during the previous administration, he controlled everything. He decided who was appointed to the hospitals, who the director was, who signed the contracts, and how things were done. In fact, you know that when the pandemic hit, when the pandemic broke out, Fiocruz had to build an entire hospital structure here in just 74 days, connected to the Evandro Chagas Institute, to save people. Because the president at the time used to mock those who suffered from COVID-19. He made jokes about people who were short of breath. I think that already says a lot, because the federal hospitals in Rio de Janeiro at the time were run by the big boss, who is his son, Bolsonaro. He didn't implement any expansion program in the federal hospitals to take in victims of COVID-19 at that time. At Cardoso Fontes, when the Ministry of Health went there together with the City Hall, nurses and doctors said they were forced to pay a toll to the militia to use the Cardoso Fontes hospital parking lot. It was handed over to the militia. The godfather, which is Bolsonaro, allowed those hospitals under his administration to be handed over to the militia. The André hospital had construction work that was stopped in the cafeteria. The work wasn't moving forward, and later it was discovered that someone was profiting from the cafeteria contract, which served both patients and professionals. Several services were shut down. The former president of the Republic and Bolsonaro, his son, senator for Rio de Janeiro, who was the godfather of the federal hospitals in Rio de Janeiro, caused a real collapse of the federal hospitals in Rio de Janeiro. Thanks to you, Mr. President, and thanks to the leadership of Minister Anicia, and thanks to the partnership Cavalieri is here with the Rio de Janeiro City Hall, we have carried out since 2023 a true revival program for the federal hospitals of Rio de Janeiro. Truly, thank you. The godfather of Rio de Janeiro's federal hospitals.
That's right. This powerful godfather of the hospitals of Rio de Janeiro will still have to answer for these crimes at the right time. You saw it, right? The militia took over the hospital parking lot. You have an idea of the situation. That's going to be another scandal that's about to break. And it was the Minister of Health who leaked that bit of the situation. Obviously, the first operation of the federal police regarding this other scheme involving Flávio Bolsonaro in Rio de Janeiro will be the one to blow this up. And we can expect things to get really heated. And speaking of heated, look at this. The current governor of Rio de Janeiro is Ricardo Couto. Thank you. He took over from Claudio Castro, and Ricardo Couto is an appellate judge. And he is helping the federal police with the investigation of the crimes. I'm not even going to say possible crimes anymore. I'm not saying possible anymore. I'm going to talk about the crimes that Claudio Castro's criminal organization committed during his term as governor. He is conducting a thorough investigation throughout the entire public administration to find out for issues of bid rigging, corruption, and patronage jobs. A series of situations involving the improper transfer of funds, which was several crimes committed during Claudio Castro's administration. And he is helping the federal police with a lot of information, especially because as an appellate judge, he knows the legal system in what counts as evidence and what doesn't count for anything. Do you understand, my dear? And today he was with Lula in Rio de Janeiro. And Lula told him that he will have the full support of the government and the federal police to catch the criminal organization that was in charge. There in Rio de Janeiro, led by the Claudio Castro's group, who was one of the leaders of the scheme, pay attention.
The court made a decision that today I think
correct to appoint you as interim governor until the elections. No one is expecting you to build an overpass. No one is expecting you to build a bridge. No one wants you to make an artificial beach. Do you know what these people expect from you during these months? Work to arrest all the thieves who govern this state, the deputies who are part of an organized militia. It's not possible. The Brazilian state, Rio de Janeiro, which is the most well-known state in the world, the most famous city in the world, it's not possible. We hear in the news that organized crime has taken over the territory, that the factions have taken over the territory. Let's work together to give the territory of the communities back to the people of Rio de Janeiro and to the Brazilian people. Know this.
And that's what the people of Rio de Janeiro want and deserve. Respect, because a criminal organization has taken over Rio de Janeiro. The main boss, you can be sure, is Flávio Bolsonaro, and it's just more scheming. Let's see here. Today, you know, there was a federal police operation, right? Here, look, Claudio Castro connects Borcaro's master to Magro's refit, the investigations against the ally of the Bolsonaro clan. It's what I told you from the beginning. The refit scheme, the gas station scheme in Rio de Janeiro is intertwined, connected to Borcaro's scheme. And that's what became very clear today in André Mendonça's decision, following the request from the federal police and the approval of the Attorney General regarding the 10 search and seizure operations that took place today, including at the address of former Governor Claudio Castro. That there is a direct connection between the criminal organizations. And to me, it's the same organization. It's just a coordinating arm of the same mafia organization led by Daniel Borcaro. And in the decision, it was very clear. It's clear this connection between the two criminal organization structures, which I repeat, for me is the same organization. The movie issue was only used for money laundering. The organization is so extensive and the amount of money is so large. So they needed several laundering schemes to launder the money, several companies, several frontmen, and various situations to try to hide the multi-billion-dollar scheme. That's the situation. One thing is interconnected with the other. They're linked. You can be sure of that. And today in the minister's decision, this connection was already made clear here. In fact, there's already a fugitive, Ricardo Magro, who's in the United States, and I don't believe that's a coincidence. Claudio Bolsonaro in the United States, Eduardo Bolsonaro in the United States, Alexandre Ramage in the United States. I've always told you from the beginning, who's paying for all of this? It's very expensive to live in the United States, especially with the kind of rich lifestyle they're living. Who's paying for all of this? I've always told you, just follow the money, and that's exactly what the police are doing. And that's why there was another operation today, which makes clear the connection with Refit, the gas stations, with fraud in bidding, with corruption, money laundering, financial crimes, with Daniel Voca's mafia. Let's see a few more comments here from some people who talked about all this. Let's see Leonel Radio, who's always very constructive in his speeches.
Flávio Bolsonaro's whole operation isn't just falling apart, it's collapsing. Now the former Bolsonarist governor, Claudio Castro, had a search and seizure warrant executed at his house by the federal police. Claudio Castro, who had already been impeached, is ineligible due to corruption for diverting 300 million reais from Rio de Janeiro in vote buying. This governor, a Bolsonarist, was Flávio Bolsonaro's right-hand man, and he was a candidate for the Senate for the PL party and supported by Flávio Bolsonaro. Flávio Bolsonaro was the one in charge. In the government of the state of Rio de Janeiro, even placing members of the Comando Vermelho inside. But Claudio Castro then had a search and seizure warrant at his house for sending 3 billion reais from the pension fund from the retirees of Rio de Janeiro to Banco Master. Just look at how absurd that is. And maybe that's where that little bit of money came from for Bolsonaro's little movie. Brother, I'll be with you no matter what it takes, no matter what happens. But help me out here. Give me a clue. The federal police are shedding light on that now, and Flávio Bolsonaro's whole little operation is falling apart. And it's important for us to remember that yesterday, Valdemar da Costa Neto gave an interview saying that Flávio Bolsonaro went to meet with Vorcaro, who had just gotten out of jail, to ask for more money. At that moment, it was already known that the money came from embezzlement of the NSS, money laundering for the PCC, and this Brazilian far-right Bolsonarist group that has the nerve to try to run in an election. But we are going to defeat this corrupt mob tied to militias and criminal factions.
That's right. Did you all see that, guys? Did you see it? Were you here for the 8:30 live stream? I showed it. Valdemar Costa Neto, president of the PL. Yeah, Valdemar Costa Neto, guys, for God's sake, in an interview with Globo News, right? He said that Flávio Bolsonaro went to Daniel Vorcaro's house to meet with him and demand more money from him. Do you remember that when the whole situation blew up, Flávio said that a video of him with Daniel Vorcaro was going to leak and that he went there to put an end to it because Daniel Vorcaro had already been arrested, was wearing an ankle monitor, and that he went there to put an end to it. Well, yeah. Valdemar Costa Neto said that he went there to collect the rest of the money, to demand more money. Daniel Vorcaro had already been arrested, was wearing an ankle monitor, and in fact, at the same time as all this, he was arrested again and is still in jail. So this is bribery, people, guys, I've already asked you this question, and I'm going to ask it again. What kind of power does Flávio Bolsonaro have to demand millions of reais from the banker Daniel Vorcaro? What did Flávio do for him to be able to demand that? That's bribery. Yeah, and the footage was used to launder money. That's what happened. Congressman Antonio de Paula is from Rio de Janeiro, so he can speak with even more authority about everything that's happening. Shall we listen to what he has to say here? It's important.
Claudio Castro, Claudinho Lalau is going to jail.
There's no other way for him.
These are the images being taken right now at the house of the former governor of Rio, Claudio Castro. Apparently, it's the former governor, Claudio Castro. He's there together with the federal police agents, whom we were able to identify at this moment through the images from Globocop. And we can see, look, the federal police agents are in the penthouse where the former governor of Rio lives. They are carrying out this search and seizure warrant. At least that's the information we have at the moment. We know that 10 search and seizure warrants are being carried out. We don't have confirmed information yet if any other type of warrant, such as an arrest warrant, is being carried out at this moment. The information we have is that this is an operation executing search and seizure warrants.
Claudio Castro, Claudinho Lalau is going to jail. There is no other way for him.
And he really is going to jail. It's just a matter of time. Now, another concern I have, and I'm here to express it and for us to talk about it. Ibanez Rocha. What action is being taken regarding Ibanez Rocha, folks? Ibanez Rocha is also conurbated. The Federal District of Brasilia, former governor of the Federal District, took more than 12 billion in public money from the public bank BRB and shoved it up the devil's ass, Daniel Volcaro's. Where are the operations regarding Ibanez Rocha? Will you let him destroy the evidence? Are you going to let him do whatever he wants? And then when you finally go after him, there won't be any evidence? Where is everyone? Mendonça. Oh, for God's sake, my dear, let's do something. Let's do something. Let's go. If he sees what's happening in Rio de Janeiro, soon he'll destroy everything there in the Federal District. Or are you going to tell me that Ibanez Rocha has nothing to do with it? The governor, Ibanez Rocha, went to Daniel Volcaro's house several times. I've already heard that he went to Daniel Volcaro's party and took more than 12 billion from the public bank and injected it into Daniel Volcaro's junk stocks. Where are the operations against Ibanez Rocha, guys? Are you going to wait for them to destroy evidence too, just like Flávio Bolsonaro is doing right now in the United States? Are you going to wait for him to coordinate stories, testimonies? Testimonies are another concern that worries me because it keeps looking like, that what are you waiting for? Claudio Castro will have to be arrested. There's no other option, right? Claudio Castro, targeted by the federal police. 2 cell phones were seized, according to his lawyer. The former governor of Rio's penthouse was one of the addresses searched. And you saw the little house, right? Which is a penthouse. Fancy apartment penthouse. Do you know how many millions this penthouse costs? 1 million. No, 2 million. No, 3 million. No, 4 million rees. It's the little penthouse where Claudio Castro lives. Was it a gift from Bolsonaro? Since Bolsonaro was giving money to everyone, right? Obviously, there's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. They must have done something to benefit him. Maybe it was the 3 billion that Claudio Castro stole from the pension fund, from retirees, pensioners, and public servants of the state of Rio de Janeiro, and injected right up that devil Daniel Volcaro's ass. For God's sake.
Congressman Rogério Correa.
No, let's see Pastor Henrique Vieira, because he is, he's calm, serene, and all that. And sometimes that calmness is necessary, isn't it? That's a little too peaceful. Oh, Jesus. Let's hear from Pastor Henrique Vieira of Rio de Janeiro.
Urgent everyone. Claudio Castro is once again the target of searches by the federal police, now early in the morning in Rio de Janeiro. This time it's an investigation related to investments by Rio Previdencia and Banco Master. Yes, Claudio Castro put more than 1 billion from Rio Previdencia, which is meant to pay retirees and pensioners, and made an investment in Banco Master, even with a recommendation against it from the State Court of Auditors. And it seems, according to the investigation, that wasn't all. Actually, it reached almost 3 billion because he also put in resources from another fund and from SEDAI. Money from the state of Rio de Janeiro invested in Banco Master, which is the bank responsible for the biggest financial scandal in the country's history. And all of this with the technical opinion of the State Court of Auditors saying not to do it. Very strange. The investigation is moving forward. The evidence is strong. And once again, Claudio Castro is the target of a federal police search. It's unbelievable. A few weeks ago, it was the refit scheme. Besides that, he has already been charged with abuse of economic power in the election in 2022. And if he is removed from office, he will be ineligible. Wherever you look, the Bolsonarist Claudio Castro has a corruption scheme. He actually seems like the leader of a mafia that has robbed the state of Rio de Janeiro while the people suffer, while public servants suffer, while teachers and health professionals suffer. Claudio Castro there, full of schemes. The investigation has to go all the way with great efficiency, with real consequences, because it is necessary, it is urgent, it is essential to change the logic of power in the state of Rio de Janeiro. It's impressive how they plundered the state, how the schemes multiplied, how they looted the public coffers. And all this while the people are suffering. It's the Bolsonaro supporter, Claudio Castro, the portrait of what the right does in this country, in Rio. But let's move forward, because it's time to change this story. A firm brotherly hug.
The moment?
Thank you, Claudio Castro, once again the target of a search. Yes.
And all of this is only happening because Lula is president, and the federal police have the autonomy to do what needs to be done. If Bolsonaro had won the election, forget the video, subscribing, or sharing. Everything would have just continued quietly with the Bolsonaro family, taking billions and millions and billions and playing with money, with payments, with bribes. Why? What explains it? Maybe you can explain it, you blind little guy crying on the live stream. Maybe you can explain it to me. Why did Daniel Vorcaro transfer $3 million to Bolsonaro during his 2022 election campaign? Why was Daniel Vorcaro the biggest donor to Bolsonaro's campaign in 2022? Why? Maybe you can explain it to me. Why did Daniel Vorcaro take his jet worth more than 200 million reais and lend it to Nicolas Ferreira to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 trips on the jet to run election ads and campaign for Bolsonaro in October 2022? Why? Because the Bolsonaro family was involved in the scheme with Vorcaro and opened the doors for Vorcaro to have Banco Master, so that Vorcaro could commit the fraud, so that Vorcaro could commit the INSS fraud, because he was also authorized to make deductions from retirees and pensioners, and he did it through Onyx Lorenzoni, who authorized it, who at the time was Bolsonaro's Minister of Social Security. So I say it and I repeat it. If it weren't for Lula's government today, this scheme would still be stealing millions, billions of reais. In Brasilia, in the federal district, in São Paulo, in Rio de Janeiro, and in other capitals where the Bolsonaro family would shield the whole scheme, because they would be sending money abroad and putting it in their own pockets. Thank God and thanks to the Brazilian people, we elected Lula. And that's the only reason these schemes are coming to light. Otherwise, they wouldn't. And the theft would continue all over Brazil, involving billions of reais. Everything would be under their control. Representative Rogério Correa spoke a little. Have you liked the live stream yet? No? What is it? What did I do to you? Don't leave me talking to myself. Don't leave me talking to myself. Please, please like the live stream, my dear. Otherwise, you'll forget later. Then you'll forget later. So what do we do then?
Hit the like button, like, comment, and share. It's really important.